to be here with all of you. I want to thank your absolutely amazing Secretary of State, my friend, Allison Lundergren Grimes. Thank you, Allison. I want to also thank Mayor Greg Fisher, who's here somewhere. Thank you, Mayor. But mostly, I want to thank all of you for being here with us on this rainy afternoon. We are excited about the primary next Tuesday. You know, these elections are always important. You know, that's how we govern ourselves. I believe that. But boy, do I think this presidential election has about the highest stakes that we've seen in a really long time. You could not imagine a more different vision for our country than the one between our side of Democrats for progress, for prosperity, for fairness and opportunity, than the presumptive nominee on the Republican side. And that's why it's important we have a big vote on next Tuesday, because we've got to get ready to go all the way to November to win the general election. You know, the way I see this, we've got to break down all the barriers that stand in the way of any American getting ahead and staying ahead. And I've been talking about this now for a year as I've crisscrossed the country, talking to thousands of people. Because yes, we've got to knock down the economic barriers, but there are other barriers that prevent people from fulfilling their own God-given potential. And I want you, with me, to be absolutely on the front lines of making sure that the American dream is within reach of every single person in this country. Number one, we've got to have more good jobs with rising incomes. And I'll tell you, it's a historical fact. The economy does better when we have a Democrat in the White House. I know our Republican friends hate it when I say that, but all you have to do is look at the record of the last two Democratic presidents to get all the evidence you need. As I vaguely remember, I know it was a long time ago, but as I vaguely remember, when my husband was president, we ended up with 23 million new jobs and incomes that rose for everybody. That's an important fact because we don't want incomes just to rise for some. We want them to rise for everybody, not just people at the top. And when Bill was president, that is what happened. More people lifted out of poverty. Median family income going up 17%. Median African-American family income going up 33%. Everybody did better. That's the way it's supposed to be in America. That's how I was raised. You do your part, you work hard, you get ahead. Your kids will have a better life than you did. That's what I want people to believe, and that's what I want to make sure happens. So you might ask yourself, okay, if that's what happened in the 90s, well, why did it fall apart? And there's a kind of easy answer for that. We had a Republican president. And I'll tell you, this is serious because I think we had a balanced budget and surplus. We had new jobs, rising incomes, and now we can look back and see that we haven't had a raise for most Americans in about 16 years. Family income is about $4,000 less than it was when my husband left office. There was a recent survey done of both Republicans and Democrats, and they were saying, well, so when was the best year you can remember? And they said 2000. Now, why was that? Because we were on the right track. But the Republicans came back with their failed economic positions, trickle-down economics. And then, of course, they took their eyes off the financial markets and the mortgage markets, and we know what happened. The worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Now, this is not ancient history, and I remind us of it because the Republicans are going to run the same campaign. They're going to run the same economic policies. You can already see it. We can't let that happen. We were losing 800,000 jobs a month when President Obama was elected. And I'll tell you, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves for making sure we didn't fall into a Great Depression. And you know what the Republicans all say? They said it in their debates. You'll hear it from their presumptive nominee. They say, well, this was the slowest recovery in history. Now, my friends, that takes a lot of nerve. We would not have needed a recovery if the Republicans hadn't driven us off the cliff in the first place. And so here's what I want to do. I have a program to create more good jobs with rising incomes, rebuild the middle class. We're going to invest in more infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our tunnels, our ports, our airports. I think it's about time that a bridge you've got right here should be fixed. These are good jobs. These pay good money, but they also make us more competitive. Why should we allow all the investment that our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents made go to waste? Makes no sense whatsoever. Let's put Americans to work. These are jobs you cannot export. They've got to be done right here in Kentucky. And then we're going to bring back advanced manufacturing. There are a lot of people who say to me, well, we can't do that. I don't buy it. I believe we can make it in America again. We got to have a plan. We've got to invest in tax incentives for companies that will actually produce manufacturing jobs here instead of shipping those jobs overseas. But there's a lot of things we've got to invent and build, and we should do it here in America. My husband was at Morehead State the other day, and he can't stop talking about it because he was meeting with students who are doing research building tiny satellites for NASA right there at Morehead State. I'm telling you, the young people of America, if we give them a chance, they will invent the future and create the jobs that are there. And you know how we're going to combat climate change? Well, we're not going to combat it by denying it. I love it when the Republicans are asked, well, what do you think about climate change? And they all say something like, well, I don't know, I'm not a scientist. And I've been saying for months now, well, go talk to a scientist. You could go to the University of Louisville, you could go to the University of Kentucky. There are a lot of scientists there who will explain it to you. But I'm also excited because some country is going to be the 21st century superpower when it comes to clean, renewable energy. It's going to be, I think, either Germany, China, or us. I want it to be us. The jobs, the technology, the businesses, the exports. You see, I have this idea that our future can be even brighter than our past. That the best years of America can be ahead of us if we start acting like Americans again. Roll up our sleeves and get to work. And we're going to do more for small business because that's where most jobs come from. Clear away all the obstacles. My dad was a small businessman, and I love small businesses because you never know what can be made from a small business. And I want to do more to help you get ahead if you have a small business. And I do believe we should raise the federal minimum wage. Now, I got to tell you, It really is, it's really painful when you look at people who are working hard full time and they're still in poverty. I mean, you should feel like you've got a ladder of opportunity up if you're doing what we want you and expect you to do. 2/3 of minimum wage workers are women. A lot of them single parents supporting their children. I want to raise the federal minimum wage. If states want to go above it, that's their business. But we got to get the floor up so that people have a chance to make it in America by the dint of their hard work. And I'll tell you, it is way past time to guarantee equal pay for women's work. I mean, this is not just a woman's issue. This is a family issue. If you have a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister who's working, if they're being shortchanged, you're being shortchanged. And it's not only the family income that's being shortchanged, the woman who is getting less than what her pay should be is getting shortchanged in retirement, getting shortchanged in Social Security. It's not just a 1 day, 1 week, 1 pay period, 1 year phenomenon. And I don't know about you, but I can tell you, I can tell you that as a woman who has shopped most of her life, I have never gotten a discount when I got to the cashier. I've never had anybody say to me, well, you're a woman, so you only have to pay 78 cents on the dollar. Or an African-American woman, you only have to pay about 68 cents, or a Latino woman about 58. That hasn't happened yet. But we need to be fair, and people who work hard need to be rewarded. That's how we built this country. We believe in hard work. We believe in opportunity. I'll tell you something else. I started out in Lexington today, and I was talking to some young parents, moms and dads. I had a conversation like it in Virginia yesterday. We're making it so difficult for young families. You know, the stresses on young families today seem to be much greater in lots of ways, because between the fact that you're not getting raises like people used to expect, and you're not getting maybe equal pay for your work, and child care can cost as much as sending a child to the university, and you got all kinds of challenges. If you have a new baby or a sick spouse or a sick parent, you can't get time off. We are really making it hard. And I think it's time we said, hey, let's bring family policy into the 21st century. It is not the way it used to be. We've got to support these young parents. I've been doing this work my entire adult life. First job I had out of law school was with the Children's Defense Fund, and I know how important it is that we give people hope, that we give people a real sense that we're all in this together, and that they don't feel like the game is rigged against them and the deck is stacked. So I'm going to keep advocating for good jobs and rising incomes and good work-family balance policies that can help people feel like they are being fair to their family while they do their work in their workplace. And every time I advocate for this, you know, the Republicans all say, well, there she goes, playing the woman's card. And I always say, you know what? If talking about equal pay and women's health and paid family leave is playing the woman's card, then deal me in. You are a great, great crowd today. You know what else? We've got to do more on education, and we got to start in the beginning, and we've got to go all the way through. So I do think we need more early childhood education so every kid is prepared, and we need to work with our teachers like Tia, who was out here earlier, introducing Allison. We need to be supporting our teachers, not scapegoating our teachers, giving them what they need to do their job. And then I have a plan for debt-free college if you go to a public college. And the reason we can afford to do this is because we can invest in the education of young people from middle class, working, poor families, not the wealthy. I don't believe in free college for the wealthy. I don't support that. My opponent, Senator Sanders, does. We just have a difference. But he also requires that a third of the cost for free college be paid by the states. Now, I don't know about you, but it doesn't seem like your new governor's real friendly to higher education. So my plan avoids that. We fund it directly. And the other thing we're going to do is pay down student debt by letting you refinance your debt like a mortgage or a car payment. I'm excited about this because there's so much student debt out there, and it's holding people back and it's holding them down. $1.2 trillion in student debt. So let's get the interest rates down. Let's give people a chance to pay it back as a percentage of their income. Let's put a date certain when it ends, and let's stop the federal government from making money off of lending money to students and their families. Now, I also will tell you, I will defend the Affordable Care Act, and I am saddened by what I hear may come out of the governor's office here in Kentucky. I'm especially saddened because I think you all know this, but Kentucky under Governor Beshear was widely praised for running the best affordable care transition in the whole country. Your state exchange called Connect, better than any state, bigger, richer. You guys did it right, and it's working. You've had the second biggest drop in the uninsured in the country, nearly 9% it's down to. And I was visiting the family health centers here in Louisville, and I was talking to doctors and nurse practitioners and patients, and I have to tell you, it just brought tears to my eyes. People who are getting health care for the first time in years. People who are dealing with problems that they just had to ignore. People who feel healthier, more productive, like they can put in a good day's work because they now have the treatments that they deserve and need to have. And it is so It's so distressing to me when anybody in public life who has all the health care he or she needs wants to take it away from poor people, working poor people, small business people, and others who don't have the health care they need. I don't understand it. I really do believe we're all in this together. We are stronger together. And how does it help me or help our economy if you have hundreds of thousands of people in this state who can't afford the health care they need? That doesn't seem like it's a productive outcome at all. So I'm hoping maybe your governor will come out with a plan that doesn't strip away the health insurance that hundreds of thousands of Kentuckians now have. I sure hope that's the case, because that's the kind of country we should be striving to be, where we do take care of each other. And there are two issues. I want to get the cost of prescription drugs down, and I think we can do it now. And I want to do more on mental health and addiction. Both of those issues, we're just not doing enough. There's still too much stigma about mental health, right? If you have diabetes, you tell your family, your friends, you've been diagnosed with diabetes, right? You have depression, you're not sure you want anybody to know. And you may not even go get the help you need because you're embarrassed. It is time to end the stigma. We are learning so much about the body, about our genomes, about how we actually work. And we are all one body, and whether it's mental health or physical health, it is all who we are, and we need to do more to help people who are suffering. And I know Kentucky's facing a big opioid crisis. And we've got to do more because we're losing thousands of people a year to overdoses. And I was very pleased at the Family Health Center today to learn that they're starting an opioid treatment. But we need that everywhere because people need help and they need to be saved from overdoses. A lot of them don't know that they're actually overdosing. My husband and I have lost the children of dear friends of ours, adult children, who had no intention to die, but they took a pill after they'd had a beer or two, and they never woke up. This is the single most heartbreaking story I hear as I travel across America. And as your president, if I'm so fortunate enough to be, we're going to do everything we can to save lives, divert people from the criminal justice system, give them treatment, help them into recovery, and let them get off on a better track. We are also going to reform the criminal justice system and end the era of mass incarceration with more diversion programs and more second chance programs. I think it's one of our biggest challenges, and I want us to lead the way at the local and state level, supported by the federal government. You know, there's a lot of great work for us to do in our country right now. And I think everybody running for president should have to meet the test of whether or not they're telling you about how they're going to improve the lives of Americans. What are the positive results that we are seeking? I also think they should level with you about where they stand on all of the hot button issues, the issues about rights, because there's a big difference between us. I will defend a woman's right to make her own health care decisions. And I will defend marriage equality. And I will defend voting rights. And I will work to end Citizens United and rid our political system of unaccountable money. I talked a lot about that in this campaign. I take it personally. That Citizens United case was another right-wing attack on me. You know, the right wing never gives up attacking me. Have you noticed that? Honest to goodness. I think they're really going to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, this time. But I have a little message for them. They've done it for 25 years, and I'm still standing. It's also really important when you go to vote on Tuesday to remember you're voting not just for a president, but a commander-in-chief. And the highest obligation of a president is to protect America. I take that as a solemn obligation, and it's why I've been so concerned about the reckless talk coming from Donald Trump. I have to tell you, it's a long list now that he just sort of throws things out, and people say, well, maybe he doesn't really mean it. When you are running for and serving as president, you'd better mean what you say. So when he casually says he doesn't care if more countries get nuclear weapons, I shudder. The last thing we need are more countries with nuclear weapons. I'm trying to reduce the number of nuclear weapons. That's why I negotiated a treaty with Russia to do just that. We don't need more countries. We need fewer countries with nuclear weapons. When he says he wants to withdraw from NATO, the most successful military alliance in history, I say, and what are we going to substitute for it? And how are we going to work with our friends and allies against all the new threats we face? And when he says, well, you know, let the Iranians or the Russians go after ISIS. Well, hello. The last thing we need is Iran taking over Syria, taking over Lebanon, and threatening Israel and Europe and everybody else. So I got to tell you, I am, if I'm so fortunate enough as to be the nominee, I am looking forward to debating Donald Trump come the fall. And you know, finally, we've got to unify America. I mean, a house divided against itself, as Abraham Lincoln said, cannot stand. We can't be scapegoating and finger-pointing and blaming and demeaning and degrading and insulting our fellow Americans. Do we have disagreements? Yeah, that's in the DNA. That's healthy. There are lots of different ways to achieve our goals. We set our goals, and then we have a good back and forth about how we achieve them. You don't do that by denigrating people, demeaning people. That is not what we are. And it's time that we said enough. We're willing to have good political debates, but enough with the hate rhetoric and the insults. And let's look for ways that we can work together. And let's also recognize what did make our country great, because you see, I think we are great. But I think we can be greater if we do what we must do. And so many of the targets that Trump aims at and other Republicans aims at, they're part of how we became great. You know, this effort by Republicans to undermine workers' rights and union rights is undermining the middle class, undermining the core of who we are and how our economy operates and how we get stronger and more prosperous. Attacking immigrants, we are a nation of immigrants, right? Attacking Muslims, well, Muslims have to be on the front lines of protecting us against terrorists. They've got to tell us what they hear and what they see. That's what we learned in New York after 9/11. I have lived this, and one of the ways we picked up information was by making sure that American Muslims understood that they were welcome to pick up the phone and to call the police and to report what they saw and what they heard. It helped to keep us safe, and it will again. That's why we can't be dividing ourselves. We need to be united against terrorism. And demeaning and denigrating people with disabilities, that's not who we are. Insulting women, I don't care what he says about me, but I do resent what he says about other people. Other successful women, women who have worked hard, women who have done their part. We are, after all, 51% of the country. I've never seen us have such a divisive campaign. And I'm going to do my best to keep talking about what the issues are, what I see as our future, the kind of positive vision that I have for America. I'm going to build on the good work that has gone before. I'm going to do everything I can to bring people together. I will go anywhere, anytime, meet with anyone to find common ground. Absolutely. That's what I did as First Lady. That's what I did as a senator. That's what I did as Secretary of State. I am all about getting results for America. The way I look at it is, are people going to be better off when I end than when I started? Are more families going to have better jobs with rising incomes? Are more kids going to have better educations and better health care? Are we going to be coming together as a nation instead of falling apart? I think that is our big challenge in the 21st century, because I will tell you, there is no other country, none. I went to 112 countries as your Secretary of State for you. There is no other country that holds a candle to us. When we are good, nobody is better. And I want us to roll up our sleeves and get to work. And I feel especially strongly about that because I have a granddaughter now. And those of you who have grandchildren, you know, you are just obsessed with them. It is really kind of weird. You just sit there and stare at them. And you do it because you're so overwhelmed by love, and you see your child, your son or your daughter, who's now a parent. But it's also because you're thinking about the future. And you're saying to yourself, I don't want anything ever to go wrong for this precious child. I don't want her ever to face hard times, although they come in everyone's life. But you see, it's not enough that my grandchild has opportunities. I want every child and every grandchild here in this city, this state. I want every child to have the same opportunity to grow up and fulfill his or her God-given potential. That is what I will work on every single day in this campaign and in the White House. Please come out and vote on Tuesday. Thank you, Louisville.